Greetings, air gunners of the world, and welcome to Precision Pellets Pest Management channel. Warning, this is a pest control channel, so if pest control offends you, sashay away, now. There's a lot more to the perfect shot than just pulling the trigger. In this video, I'll discuss various shot angles that a hunter or pest controller should be looking for, as well as various factors we should consider before taking the shot. At the end of the video, I'll discuss what to do if your perfect shot didn't go as perfectly as planned. As I always say, I'm not an expert on anything. All I can share with you is what I've learned from my own experiences. If by making this video I can help someone else avoid the mistakes that I made when I first started hunting, then it will be worth the effort. I'll be using examples of rabbits shot specifically with air rifles, but assuming your caliber and foot-pounds of energy match your chosen quarry, the theory behind each shot angle and where you should place your projectile will hold true for most mammals. As a hunter, what should we be aiming for? The answer is, we should be aiming to administer the cleanest and therefore the most humane death possible. How do we achieve that? By putting a projectile into one of the 4 vital areas. Those 4 vital areas are the brain, the cervical vertebra, which is the upper spine, the lungs, and the heart. I know many people will say the liver is also a vital organ, and yes it is, but we should not be aiming for the liver. Like a gut shot, a liver shot results in a slow death, and that is not what we are aiming for. Each one of these 4 areas is every bit as lethal as any of the others, and a shot to any of these 4 areas will result in a certain and quick death. I'm going to group these vital areas into 2 groups based on their location and the resulting reaction that a shot to that area will have. These 2 groups would be the brain and cervical vertebra area and the heart-lung area. Now that we have established these 2 lethal areas, the possible shot angles to reach each of these 2 are, as seen from above, head-on, quartering towards you, side-on, quartering away from you, and directly from behind. I'll go into more detail on each one shortly, but first let's go over some basics before we get to shooting. Being able to make the perfect shot in any situation and from any angle will depend on a number of factors. So before you take your shot, there are a few things to consider. Every situation will be slightly different, so not all of these factors may apply to every shot you take. But consideration should be given to each of the following before you squeeze that trigger: the caliber you are using, the velocity of your projectile, its mass and the resulting foot-pounds of energy, distance to the animal, your accuracy with that specific rifle and projectile combination, the expected terminal ballistic performance of the projectile, over-penetration and the safe area behind the animal, meat damage, wind speed and direction, and lastly, which shot is currently being presented to you. Let's look at each of those separately. Number 1, the caliber you are using. In some countries, you may be limited in your choice of calibers, but your choice of caliber will affect the projectile's weight and its penetration potential. 177s shoot projectiles in the 7 to 20 grain range. 22 calibers shoot 12 to 40 grain projectiles, and 25 calibers shoot projectiles in the 20 to 50 grain range. Smaller calibers, depending on their foot-pounds of energy and the projectile design, have the potential to penetrate deeper and often over-penetrate, which is something we will discuss shortly. Larger calibers, depending on their foot-pounds of energy and projectile design, have the potential to transfer more energy into the target and don't exit, which I find is usually a more desirable outcome. Watch my video on caliber comparison for some extensive testing and results on this matter. Number 2, the velocity of your projectile. And when considered in combination with number 3, its mass, the resulting foot-pounds of energy. We'll talk about these two together because they are inseparably linked. I have always achieved excellent performance from pellets around the 800 feet per second mark. But pellets are usually in their happy place between 500 and 900 feet per second. Slugs don't seem to mind going faster and can perform exceptionally well at velocities in excess of 1,000 feet per second. I'll discuss projectiles and velocities in a lot more depth in part 2. There is a not so simple formula for kinetic energy, which multiplies the projectile's mass by its squared velocity, then divides it by a large constant, which has something to do with the gravitational constant, to give the resulting foot-pounds of energy that that projectile has at that speed. A much simpler way to work it out is to just Google FPE calculator, type in the velocity and mass, and it will spit out your FPE. Some countries may be limited by the amount of foot-pounds they can use. But basically, more foot-pounds of energy means the projectile is carrying a greater amount of kinetic energy, and that energy could cause a projectile to either penetrate deeper or cause it to deform in the target and transfer its energy into the target. However, having said all of that, it is worth noting that with good shot placement, you only need around 3 foot-pounds of energy at the rabbit to cleanly kill a rabbit. Take a minute to think about that. This shot was taken with a .177 caliber air rifle, producing 4.4 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. The rabbit was 27 yards away, and at 27 yards, the pellet's energy had dropped down to 2.7 foot-pounds. I often use this power setting of 4.4 foot-pounds for rats, sparrows, starlings, miners, and rabbits out to about 20-ish yards. Number 4, distance to the animal. The distance to the animal should influence your shot selection simply because the further away you are, the bigger your groups will grow. You should know this from practicing at the range. Every time the distance doubles, your group size will also double. So look for bigger target areas for your longer distance shots. Also, the further away the rabbit is, the harder it gets to accurately judge the distance, and the greater the amount of holdover you'll need. Of course, if you're using a laser rangefinder and ballistic calculators, that argument becomes null and void. Bear in mind that the term longer distance is a relative term, and what constitutes long will vary from shooter to shooter, which is why it's important to know your own limits. Number 5, your accuracy with that specific rifle and projectile combination. If you find you can shoot one-hole groups at 15 yards, but can't hit the proverbial barn door at 50, then you should set yourself a limit and not hunt beyond that certain distance. This will be a good time to talk about the bottle top test. The bottle top test is a great way to determine your accuracy with any given rifle and projectile combination, and will give you a very good idea of what your maximum hunting distance should be. It's a simple accuracy test whereby you take 10 bottle tops, put them up at say 20 yards, and if you can hit all 10 bottle tops with 10 shots, then you are good to hunt out to 20 yards. Move them back to 30 yards and repeat. The furthest distance that you can hit 10 bottle tops with 10 shots is the distance you should limit yourself to when hunting. Now, if you go out hunting and you find you can't get that close to the rabbits, don't be tempted to take long pot shots at rabbits. Rather go back to the shooting range and practice your shooting, because practice makes perfect. Watch my video titled "The Little 177 That Could" for more on that. And maybe also work on your stalking too. Stalking is a lost art, and I always found a good stalk to be very satisfying, and it contributes hugely to the satisfaction of any hunt. Always get as close as you can before taking your shot. Number 6. The expected terminal ballistic performance of the projectile. There are 3 types of ballistics we can talk about. Internal ballistics, which is what happens to the projectile while it is inside the rifle. External ballistics, which is how the projectile performs between the muzzle and the target, in other words, while it's in flight. And terminal ballistics, which is how the projectile performs inside the target. Knowing how your projectile is going to perform inside the target can influence your shot selection. Is it likely to hold its shape and pass right through? Or can you expect it to expand and stop inside the rabbit within a few centimeters? What difference will hitting small bones make? Number 7. Over-penetration and a safe area behind the animal. If there is a chance your projectile could over-penetrate and exit out the other side of the rabbit, do you know where it's going to end up? Should you take that shot? This shot was taken with a .177 caliber air rifle, producing 12.39 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. The rabbit was 29 yards away, and the pellet was still carrying 8.3 foot-pounds of energy when it hit the rabbit's head. With 8.3 foot-pounds of energy, it passed straight through the rabbit's head, changes direction, and exits out the other side. Watch this area closely. Number 8. Meat damage. If you are hunting for the pot, meat damage might be a consideration that influences your shot selection. Number 9. Wind speed and direction. Wind speed is more important than wind direction. If it's a gentle breeze of 2 kilometers an hour, the direction makes very little difference. I found that above 10 kilometers per hour, I need to start being aware of wind direction. If I have to shoot in the wind, a direct headwind is the most desirable wind. A tailwind will have the least effect on your shot, but will probably give you away by carrying your scent directly to the rabbit. That's why it's always better to hunt into the wind. The side wind will definitely create a difference between your point of aim and your point of impact. The further the distance you are shooting, the more important the wind becomes. If your projectile is blown off course by 6 millimeters at 20 yards, you probably won't even notice it. But at 80 yards, it'll be 24 millimeters off, and unless you compensated and aimed off, that's a miss. The only way to master the wind is to get onto the range and practice shooting in the wind. On windy days, avoid taking long shots, or get closer. And lastly, number 10, what shot is currently being presented to you? When all the above factors have been considered, is the shot you are looking at a good one? Or should you wait for a better shot to present itself before you make your perfect shot? When it comes to aiming, the best advice I can give you is to not aim at the animal. Instead, rather visualize where the vital area you are aiming for is positioned inside of the animal and aim for that inside point. Don't aim at the outside, aim for the inside. Now let's discuss various shot angles. The heart-lung area presents the largest of the fatal zones, so let's start here. There are many reasons why you might choose a heart-lung shot over a brain and neck shot. Some examples of situations where you should consider a heart-lung shot would be: if you are new to hunting and still building your confidence, aim for the bigger vital area. If you need to take a quick, sure shot. If you find yourself needing to take a long shot. If you're shooting in the wind. If you need to take a follow-up shot. Or if the brain and neck is obscured and not visible. What to expect from a heart-lung shot? A lung shot does not cause an instant on-the-spot death. However, it is very deadly. Sometimes the rabbit will give a little jump and then bolt off. Often they bolt off in any direction for 5 or 10 yards, then turn around 180 degrees and run back the other way before nosediving and expiring. A heart shot results in a similar reaction to a lung shot, although sometimes a heart shot rabbit may run off, stop, then jump straight up into the air before expiring. If you are hunting for the pot, be careful of using a heart-lung shot on a rabbit that is close to its burrow. Many a hunter has executed a good heart-lung shot only to watch their quarry disappear down a hole before expiring. This lung shot rabbit ran about 10 yards and then, with most mammals, once the animal has expired and the heart has stopped beating, there will be a series of involuntary muscular reactions known as myoclonic twitches. These are caused by residue electrochemical activity in the nerves and result in the dead rabbit kicking, jumping, or even doing backflips before finally becoming still. But rest assured, if you put your projectile through one of the 4 vital areas, the rabbit is dead. Let's start with the directly from behind heart-lung shot. This is not a shot you should be looking for because, well, there is no shot. Neither of the 2 vital areas are being presented to you, and at least 25 centimeters of penetration is required to reach the heart-lung area. This is not a shot for an air rifle. More often than not, if you blow little kisses at a rabbit like this, it will sit up. Now you have some options. The quartering away heart-lung shot. This is the classic shot that any rifle hunter or bow hunter should look for, particularly if the front leg is extended forward, moving the heavy humerus bone forward and opening up the vital V, exposing the heart-lung area. This offers the cleanest shot at the largest vital area with no heavy bones in the way. Aim about 1/3 of the way up the body, behind the front leg. And remember to aim inside. The side-on heart-lung shot. This shot offers a side view of the lungs and the heart area. Every time I dissect a rabbit, I'm always surprised at how far forward the lungs and heart are. So if this shot presents itself to you, aim in tight behind the front leg, into the usual vital V. Be aware that this V is created by the scapula and the humerus. The scapula of a rabbit is relatively thin and should not present a problem for a pellet to get through. But the humerus can and will stop lower powered pellets from reaching the vitals area. So avoid the humerus whenever possible. If you are shooting with lots of foot-pounds of energy and have 12 or more foot-pounds at the target, the humerus is less of a problem to worry about. The quartering towards you heart-lung shot. This shot offers a slim window to the heart-lung area forward of the front leg. The humerus and shoulder joint, which are both to be avoided, are facing directly at you and cover much of the vital area. I would only recommend this shot if you are very confident in your abilities or if you are shooting high foot-pounds of energy. If you are shooting high foot-pounds of energy and have over 14 foot-pounds at the rabbit, a shot directly onto the shoulder can be quite devastating. With such high foot-pounds of energy on impact, the projectile will smash through the shoulder joint and penetrate to the cervical vertebra. The frontal chest shot. This is not a shot I would recommend for slow traveling projectiles. I'll go into a lot of detail on why in the next section, the frontal brain shot. But if your projectile has a muzzle velocity of 600 feet per second or more, this is a very effective shot. This is one of my favorite shots. When hit squarely and centered in the upper chest, it very often finds the cervical vertebra and has devastating lights out results. If you hit lower down in the chest or slightly off center, it is a lung or a heart shot. Bear in mind, the chest is flanked on each side by a humerus, but if you are aiming inside, you should be nowhere near those. We have now covered the heart-lung shots from all angles. So let's have a look at the brain neck shots. There are many reasons why you might choose a brain or neck shot over a heart-lung shot. Some examples of situations where you might consider a brain neck shot would be if you are confident in your abilities and have passed the bottle top test at that distance and the conditions are favorable. If you are hunting for the pot and meat damage is a consideration. If the heart-lung area is obscured and the head is all you can see. Or if the rabbit is close to a warren and you don't want to risk losing it down a hole. What to expect from a brain or neck shot. Often called a head shot, I prefer to call it a brain shot. Why? Because you shouldn't be aiming for the head, you should be aiming for the brain. These shots require precision shooting, and this is why the bottle top test is really worth mastering, because a rabbit's brain is, oddly enough, about the size of a bottle top. If you shoot a rabbit in the brain, it will drop on the spot, stone dead. It's an instant loss of consciousness and an instant death, like switching off a light. We often describe these shots as DRT, dead right there. The same is true for a cervical vertebra shot. A projectile through the upper spine will destroy the spinal cord, disconnecting the brain from the rest of the body, and the rabbit will drop on the spot, stone dead. As often as they may simply collapse on the spot, they may also launch into a backflip or even do a forward somersault. But regardless of how they react, they were dead the instant the projectile went through the brain or the vertebra. As with a heart-lung shot, the dead animal will display myoclonic twitches, which will be observed as kicking, jumping, or backflips for a few seconds until they become still. How to locate the brain of a rabbit from any angle. If you've ever heard the phrases, aim between the eyes, or just behind the ear, those are reference points for aiming on the outside of the animal. And as you well know, between the eyes and behind the ear are two very different places on an animal. These reference points will only hold true if you are looking at the animal from a specific angle. Whereas if you learn how to locate the brain from any angle and then aim inside, you'll be able to reliably hit the brain shot after shot from any angle. As a general rule of thumb for most mammals, if you draw a line from the left eye to the right ear hole and another line from the right eye to the left ear hole, where the two lines intersect makes an X. The brain lies in the back quadrant of that X. This holds true from any angle, even when looking down from an elevated position. Aim inside, just behind the X. The head-on brain shot. There's actually a lot to discuss about the frontal brain shot. Just because you are facing the rabbit head-on, don't be tempted to simply aim between the eyes. Always draw your X and aim inside. Don't fall into bad habits and get lazy. A shot between the eyes of this possum will be too low and will not find the brain. Always try and draw your X, then aim just behind it. Some people may tell you not to shoot a rabbit that is looking directly at you, or any animal looking directly at you for that matter, especially if you are bow hunting. This is good advice if you are shooting arrows that are traveling around 200 to 300 feet per second. It's also good advice if you are shooting pellets traveling at less than 600 feet per second. The frontal brain shot is definitely not a shot I would recommend for slow traveling pellets out past 20 yards. Why? Because the sound of the bow or the sound of your air rifle travels to that rabbit at around 1,125 feet per second, which is roughly the speed of sound. But your projectile is traveling at less than half that speed and slowing down as it goes downrange. The animal has time to hear the sound of the rifle, react to the sound, and move. And the longer the shot, the more time it has to react. Now, if the animal is already looking at you before you've even taken the shot, that means it's already aware you are there. Its eyes and its ears are facing you. It's looking and listening for any signs of danger. It's on high alert before you've even taken your shot. When it hears the shot, self-preservation and the fight or flight kicks in, and it will jump the string, as we say in bow hunting. If you are shooting very high velocity slugs, like around 1,000 feet per second, or powder burners, then reacting to the sound of the shot past 30 yards won't be a problem. But generally with air rifles, I would reserve the frontal brain shot for close shots only. The quartering towards you brain shot. This is one of the most common shots I take. Very often, the opposite side ear hole lines up with the close side eye, and that's all you need. The most direct route to the brain ends up being through the eye. It's brutal, but it's extremely effective. Side-on brain neck shot. When the shot presents itself, you may only see one eye and one ear hole, so it becomes tricky to draw your X. But if you imagine where the opposite side eye and ear hole are, draw your X and put the brain into the back quadrant. With this side presentation, the neck also now becomes visible, enlarging your possible target area. The next two shots are two of my favorite shots on rabbits. They are very similar, so I'll talk about them together. The quartering away from you and the directly from behind brain and neck shot. There are a few reasons why I favor these two shots. Firstly, the rabbit is facing away from you. That means it is neither looking at you nor listening for sounds coming from your direction. Its eyes, ears, and attention are focused on something else. Secondly, like the quartering away chest shot when the front leg is extended forward and the vital area is completely open and exposed, these two shots offer the best view of your target with no heavy bones to worry about. And thirdly, if the rabbit is sitting up with the neck extended, your distance judging and pellet drop becomes less of a factor, as a low pellet might miss the brain but will still hit the neck. Even if you can't see the eyes, you can imagine where they are. Follow the same process of drawing your X and placing the brain in the back quadrant. The cervical vertebrae run from the brain down to between the shoulder blades. Now that we have covered the different shot angles and you know what to look for and what to be aware of, let's talk about the part that no hunter likes. What do you do if your perfect shot was not as perfect as you planned it to be? Sometimes, despite our best efforts, and certainly our best intentions, even the most perfectly executed shot might not land where we want it to. There are many reasons why this could happen. Unexpected wind could blow your pellet off course. A pellet clipped an unseen twig or a fence wire, even a piece of grass, and changed direction. A damaged pellet skirt resulted in a flyer. Maybe it was you. You might have flinched or pulled the shot. It can happen. We are all only human. There are solutions for each of these problems, which I'll discuss in part 2. But they don't solve the immediate problem of what should you do with the rabbit you have just wounded. The worst thing you can do is to do nothing. Don't just sit there and watch a wounded rabbit hop away. Don't start beating yourself up and asking yourself, how did I mess that up, and trying to analyze the shot. There'll be time for that later. As soon as you realize your shot didn't find one of the 4 vital areas, you need to act immediately to correct the situation and finish the job. The best thing you can do, and the only thing you should do, is shoot it again, as fast as you can. Once you have wounded it, shooting it again can't make the situation any worse. You can only make things better. And the sooner you put a projectile through one of the 4 vital areas, the better. Aim for the heart-lungs area, and don't stop shooting until your rabbit is dead. It doesn't matter how many shots it takes, you finish the job. No one likes the thought of wounding an animal, and follow-up shots are always much trickier to make than that first shot. And that's why it's so important to take your time with the first shot. Make that first shot count, and there won't be a need for a follow-up shot. In closing, I'll say that the perfect shot doesn't just happen. It takes practice and preparation before it all comes together. Start collecting bottle tops and practice regularly, under all types of conditions. When you're on the shooting range, step out of your comfort zone and push yourself a little. Find your limits and the limits of your equipment. And when you go out hunting, stay within your limits. When you have mastered the 50-yard bottle top test, when you have learned how to stalk like a leopard, and when you know how to find the brain on a rabbit from any angle, you will have become the ultimate rabbit hunter. Shoot and hunt responsibly and enjoy every moment out there. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you in the next one.